But is it true love in the rectum? That's what bothers me sometimes. So-called psychoanalysis is the occupation of lustful rationalists who trace everything in the world to sexual causes, with the exception of their occupation. In Europe, it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, we make love with anyone we find attractive. Pornography is the quadraphonics of sex. It adds a third and fourth track to the sexual act. It is the hallucination of detail that rules. Man cannot live without joy. That is why one deprived of spiritual joys goes over to carnal pleasures. Sex is more exciting on the screen and between the pages than between the sheets. When one loves, it has nothing to do with sex. Part of the public horror of sexual irregularity, so-called, is due to the fact that everyone knows himself essentially guilty. Literature, creative literature, unconcerned with sex, is inconceivable. What does one want when one is engaged in a sexual act? That everything around you give you its utter attention, think only of you, care only for you. Every man wants to be a tyrant when he fornicates. Sex is the biggest nothing of all time. I can understand companionship. I can understand bought sex in the afternoon, but I cannot understand the love affair. It's love that is inescapable. Sex is the merest accident. Man begins by loving sex and ends by loving a woman. Woman begins by loving a man and ends by loving sex. Acting is like sex. You either do it and don't talk about it, or you talk about it and don't do it. That's why I'm always suspicious of people who talk too much about either. Money is like sex. It seems much more important when you don't have any. Literature, creative literature, unconcerned with sex, is inconceivable. Marriage is for women the commonest mode of livelihood, and the total amount of undesired sex endured by women is probably greater in marriage than in prostitution. From primitive times to our own, intercourse has always been considered a service for which the male thanks the woman by giving her presents or assuring her maintenance. But to serve is to give oneself a master. Sex pleasure in woman is a kind of magic spell. It demands complete abandon. If words or movements oppose the magic of caresses, the spell is broken. If a woman sleeps alone, we, all men, are to blame. We shall have to give an answer for this on Judgment Day. The woman gives herself only to her first love. To all the others, she takes it back. Love prefers twilight to daylight. Children are God's way of punishing us for having sex. I don't think pornography is harmful, but it is terribly, terribly boring. Getting an education was a bit like a communicable sexual disease. It made you unsuitable for a lot of jobs, and then you had the urge to pass it on. After making love, the first to speak says something stupid. Really true intimacy is rare, and it depends on other things besides sex. My reaction to porno films is as follows. After the first 10 minutes, I want to go home and screw. After the first 20 minutes, I never want to screw again as long as I live. Someday every woman will have orgasms, like every family has color TV, and we can all get on with the business of life. If sex and creativity are often seen by dictators as subversive activities, it's because they lead to the knowledge that you own your own body, and with it your own voice, and that's the most revolutionary insight of all. We all have our particular preferences. Mine is gentle sex, the kind in which a man takes forever before he touches you down there. But most people are so guilty about sex that they want the crime and the punishment built in. Pornography is the attempt to insult sex, to do dirt on it. Sex is just another form of talk, where you act the words instead of saying them. Sex is really only touch, the closest of all touch. And it's touch we're afraid of. Love starts with the head, and it ends with 3 small drops in the pee pipe. Everybody says sex is obscene. The only true obscenity is war. I don't know whether you've ever had a woman eat an apple while you were doing it. Well, you can imagine how that affects you. What holds the world together, as I have learned from bitter experience, is sexual intercourse. A sex symbol becomes a thing. I hate being a thing. Each generation thinks it invented sex. Each generation is totally mistaken. Anything along that line today was commonplace both in Pompeii and in Victorian England. The differences lie only in the degree of cover-up, if any. Life is a sexually transmitted disease.